Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Winter. We are moving into our next match here in the winner's side of Group C in the round of 16. My name is Fear Dragon. I am joined by Zombie Grub once again. And I want to get your thoughts on this match that I was not expecting was going to be the winner's match. I thought it was going to be Elazer versus Showtime, but instead we have Elazer versus DnS.
I gotta imagine Elazer is also, betting on that being Showtime.
I can actually confirm that because in chat he was confused about who was going to be A or B in the vetoes. He said, "Oh wait, I thought I was going to be this. No, wait. Oh, I'm not facing Showtime, right? I'm actually the other one. I'm the higher seed or whatever."
Yeah. That is correct. That's what happened in the chat. Yeah. So he was expecting Showtime, but DnS, Showtime you can almost always depend on being the defensive guy. DnS, I think most of the time is, but maybe a little bit more aggressive and not as well known, as good as the defending Showtime. At least when Showtime is playing at his best, which we expected today, but actually might be a little bit in question. He barely made it through Hellraiser. Some PvP shenanigans were afoot. I mean, PvZ is going to be a little better. If DnS makes it out of here, though, if he beats Elazer and then it's Elazer for Showtime for the Decider, that's so weird.
That is a really, really weird turn of events, potentially. But DnS is looking good today. I will note that DnS did have to play one Zerg in his round of 32. It was Raynor. And kind of got there. But again, it's Raynor. So it's really hard to read a lot into that. Raynor also has, I would say, a very different play style from Elazer. While Raynor is aggressive, it's a lot of the macro aggression with a lot of Ling run-bys. Elazer is the guy who will say, here's my timing of my Nidus Storm attack or something else like that.
Yes, I think that is spot on. Total agreement. DnS did recently lose to Elazer, I believe, like in one of the qualifiers in January.
Yeah.
So that's the only setup, though, and it was still a 1-2 loss. So it's actually totally fair call. If you're guessing DnS is going to take this, that's fair. It just would be shocking for us to have to say the decider match is Elazer versus Showtime. That's just what no one really expected.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this in the round of 32, but Elazer is one of those players that I think did have a bit of a rocky period last year, given the expectations everyone had for him. So for him to be able to come in, start the year strong, I think is going to be really important, not only for people's perception of him in 2019, but also for his own confidence boost.
Yeah. Got two stories. You got the guy who, wants to prove himself. He's been on the edge of proving himself. And then the guy who did prove himself at one point and needs to do it kind of again.
Yeah.
2019. In the top left, as the blue Protoss, he is DnS.
And in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the guy who's already proven today you don't want to cannon rush him. He is the red Zerg player, Elazer. Elazer opening up with a lot of those pool firsts in the series versus Hellraiser. I imagine that's more of a particular person kind of thing than a standard of all of his Zerg versus Protosses. And he is going to go for the hatch first this game.
Yes, I think it was 100% because of Hellraiser. How Hellraiser plays in general, I think he's always been the type to do that, but then also how he made it out of his group was a warning to every Zerg who's going to face him after. So Elazer doesn't worry about that anymore. Even if he were to drop down and face Showtime, you still have the same expectations, the non-Hellraiser expectations. And we might see more aggressive mid-game tactics like you were talking about. In fact, I'm going to almost guarantee it. Elazer did talk about publicly, how he felt like maybe it was a bit too much of a crutch that he would all in, but he's been working a lot on his macro game so that he can be both, be just really dominant with both styles of play, and is looking forward to prove to everyone basically that 2017 was not a fluke, right?
Yeah.
That 2018 was just an off time.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to seeing how Hellraiser does a little bit later on, or I guess later on in the year and stuff. But let's talk about these two guys as we do start seeing just small little things, nothing actually really being decided so far. But Elazer was one of the guys that in the round of 32, he did play versus Hearthstone, managed to beat him out to advance on to the round of 16. So maybe DnS has a little bit of an idea of what's kind of going on. Hearthstone is one of those funny players, though, as a Protoss player, that I think he does mostly standard stuff, but he also has his own little twists on builds, little small details that are a bit different than the standards. So I feel like it's always one of those hard things to truly read into like how Elazer played in that series and see if that's exactly how he's going to play in this series, because you're always reacting a little bit to your opponent as well.
Well, DnS is going to get sight on the third base actually going down. That's like step 1 of the check mark. You know, it's third base. That doesn't mean it's going to be drones necessarily, but I'll guess it. Overlord does see the Stargate, which is a nice scout. I was a little surprised, though, that Elazer didn't stick around here a little while longer and see if it was a Chronode Adept or when like the Warp Gate started, for instance. But most importantly, getting a scout in the tech.
Yep. Adept makes its way forward. It's probably going to have to... Oh, actually not going to cancel that shit. I guess the Lings don't really want to go off and creep to chase down the Adept right now. And while the Adept will take some damage here, the Adept actually taking a lot of damage from those 2 queens, but both queens retreat back and go do their injects and lay down those creep tumors.
It wasn't really the best scout, despite getting into the main base.
Yeah, did he even see the guy, like how many drones are still in gas or anything?
No, he didn't see it at all.
Okay.
So it's not perfect, but what he did see was not like any like Lings held up, I suppose, waiting to go for an attack, and that's certainly something. And now with the Oracle following up with the Scout, he'll get the better one.
Second Oracle as well, which it's not super weird. We definitely still see this sometimes, but I'm still so used to seeing Oracle Phoenix or Phoenix Oracle.
Yeah, for sure. We even see some players only go for 1 Oracle. 2 Oracles, you will be able to just do run-bys. 1 Oracle is a little lamer. In fact, this one quite bold, as there were 3 queens coming up towards it.
Yeah, still gets out of there alive with most of its hit points intact, but we got a Robo behind this for DnS. He's looking to play this out as a pretty normal looking Protoss player so far, and we're likely going to be seeing either, I mean, some signs of him throwing out a bunch of gateways or something, and okay, a couple of gateways coming down. That is just going to take him up to 4 so far, so it's not really too telling just yet, I think.
I was sworn he's also going to... I could have sworn he's going to slap down a Twilight Council.
Twilight Council or a third or something soon.
Not yet. He is setting up perhaps for a third base. Actually got a couple of Zealots instead of more Adepts.
Oh, that's a cool Zealot skin. I think that might be the Golden Age Zealot.
I guess so. I don't know.
Because it looks like a Zealot but more golden.
Yeah, that's, you know, you figure things out.
That's how I describe the Golden Age Zealot skins.
Yeah. It's just this War Prism first and foremost. There's the Twilight Council now. But we have, it's like, I think I first saw Harson do it in his WCS groups, where you do just load up like 4 Zealots, but then I could have sworn he was getting charged along with it, so. Yeah,
he was getting charged, and I think he still did slap down the Templar Archives behind it, right?
Like eventually you're gonna get there, right? But it's just like, yeah, this is just gonna be like 4 Zealots, I suppose,
oh my God,
or
these Adepts are getting a lot more damage done than I would expect. And there, we see both Adepts go down, but 6 workers killed for those 2 Adepts is not too shabby.
What? Yeah, okay. All right, War Prism, you do you. I'm not gonna judge. All right, so the Immortal's on the way out. There's Templar Archives, everything we'd expect. Their base is on the way, something that Elazer hasn't technically seen, I don't believe. Yeah. He's actually been rather Ling light, I think.
Ooh,
here and
step out a Queen. That's actually quite nice. And gets 2 workers and gets out of there alive. And with that War Prism coming on in, he also knows the positioning of the Overlords and stuff, so he knows that this is going to get spotted, but there might be this small little... No, there's no gap there for Elazer where the Overlords are not covering, so War Prism should get spotted immediately.
Man, I'm not going to say this was a mistake, because he's a much better player, but it's like waiting a long time to use the War Prism. It will eventually be able to start some raining some havoc, because right now Elazer has mostly been able to do what he wants, those 2 Adepts aside, which did more damage than they really should have.
Okay, well, there are the High Templars. They may be just waiting for some gas as he gets those in. Archons, of course, going to be loaded on up and see what damage they can get done. And swipe it off that 1 Queen does make it a little bit easier for the Archons to get damage. There's only 4 Queens, and the 5th Queen still being produced.
Yeah. So eventually, we do expect the Archon drop. Here it is. Elazer, actually really well timed with his Roaches. Has 61 workers on going to 4 bases, still powering up on the economy. And just transferring over his Roaches. They still don't have speed, so they're a little slow. There they are. Hello. There's a lot of Roaches.
Ooh, nice micro. Pulls back that Roach and doesn't really take too many losses. Takes 1 Overlord out, but DnS has to back up. Third base going to be defended by these 2 Zealots, +1 weapons all the way. Charge about to finish up. I'm starting to see these players get into their grooves.
Yeah, I saw a lack of pro production. I was like, hold on here. No, he's going back into it.
He also doesn't have Storm on the way. So is he just going to be sitting around on just the Charge Lot, Archon stuff? It's not just that, but he also stopped Immortal production.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's rallying all of his units forward here, so maybe that was an intentional little stall on the probes, but he was worried that the Ling was scouting it too accurately. So he started at least a couple more. He stopped now. He's not getting his gases. Elazer gets another scout in to see that, as it did not quite see the main army. But he already had his own army basically set up to defend this. 40 armor supply lead means that he is hopefully going to be able to defend as time goes on.
Yep, the Roach is a bit inflated army supply, and they don't quite deal as well with just the force fields over here for the sentries, but the Ravagers take care of most of those. Zealot's getting in on top of these Roaches, and Elazer getting in range of that War Prism. The Corrosive Vials come down, soften up the War Prism, but don't quite get too much damage onto it. The problem is the Roach counterattack takes out all of the drones of the third, taking out more drones inside the natural, and DnS has been pushed back mostly.
Yeah, he absolutely has. The supply tells the tale here. DnS, I think, also lost a 7X core, so warping in nothing but Zealots, which was going to be his main warp in, but it's just too many Roaches, and those little units stuck in the states are going to be out of it very soon. GG! Elazer takes a convincing game number 1.
Interesting timing there from DnS. It really did just feel like Elazer was super prepared, because when you have a situation where Elazer can not only defend against a pretty committed attack, because again, if he loses most of his immortals there, if he loses his army there, that's a lot. Not only a lot of expensive units, there was no storm, there was no +2 weapons started up, there was no more immortals being produced behind that or anything else. So the fact that Elazer was not only able to defend but also do economic damage was just a showcase that Elazer was super ready for that attack.
Yeah, it felt like Elazer, even though he took more damage to the Adepts than was necessary, that was his like one mistake. Otherwise, he was mostly let to drone, get his base, and so the Archon timing didn't catch him before he made Roaches. He was already at 70 drones-ish, you know, and a big deal to make Roaches at that point. And then, I mean, the one thing you could say is that maybe he was teching too hard and he would be caught by surprise, but he was constantly scouting that third base. He was trying to constantly see when the move out was going to be, and while he missed the move out, he just had units.
He had so many units. And
yeah,
he
was
still
already
had a
prepared.
Drone count too, so I'm not 100% sure if the timing was late or something. I mean, the charge lined up with +1 weapons, so it seemed like it was an intentional time that he was cutting the workers and then moving out there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that was his ultimate goal. It just felt more like on that War Prism thing, you know, we were kind of waiting to see what the War Prism would do. I thought he was going to at least warp in some Zealots and then just do some light harassment while waiting for the Templar Archives, because that was a decent chunk of time that the War Prism was doing nothing, and then on top of that, it really did do nothing. The Archons were immediately pushed aside, didn't do very much.
Yeah, they killed off one Overlord, didn't even get a Roach or something killed because the Elazer pulled it back. Yeah. But that is not exactly the greatest start there for DnS, who tries to go for this kind of timing to try and hit Elazer and just gets completely shut down. We'll see what he's going to be able to bust out in game number 2, because Elazer hasn't even really done his shenaniganry that he oftentimes does, especially in Zerg versus Protoss.
Well, now that he's got one win under his belt, maybe he will throw out Nidus Worm, for instance. We are going on to Automaton, which has a lot of dead space, as a lot of our maps do in this map pool. But we'll see. In the top right, as the blue Protoss, not up one, sorry, down one, is DnS.
And down in the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player. He is Elazer. Team Ago. Ago. There's a lot of ways to pronounce that.
I guess so.
Team AGO.
That's what I would have gone with. Yeah, I would have gone with an acronym. Elazer going for a gas first, then pool follow-up. So we said it, you know. He's the up game. I threw it a Nidus Worm. In this case, it's not so much a Nidus as it is just early Ling pool shenanigans.
Yeah, I want to also differentiate this from what he was doing versus Hellraiser, because he was going for pool gas and stuff versus Hellraiser. The big difference there is that Hellraiser was not only kind of situating himself as, oh, I'm going to cannon rush all these Zerg players, but also he was doing it on maps that were good for cannon rushes. This is a really hard map for cannon rushes to make work. It is extremely difficult and probably one of the worst ones, I think, in the map pool. So this is likely actually just Elazer trying to get in DNS's face.
Yeah, which he knows is going to be scouted. You know, every time a Protoss decides I don't need to scout is the one time they get early pulled or ling flipped or something like that, right?
Yep.
So it's always going to happen. And Elazer should have expected that. He's going to have faster speed as the gas is almost already there. We go. I was looking at DNS's gas.
DnS, of course, behind this still has his wall going up. Automaton can sort of be an annoying map sometimes to get that wall off, but there's only 2 Zerglings making their way across the map, so they'll be able to get there, maybe do some annoying harassment, pick away at a probe, or maybe pick away a little bit at a pylon, but Adept should be on its way out soon, and shouldn't be able to get too much damage done.
This is just such a scary map for any type of Ling Flood, because regardless if you scout it or not, the wall is, it's wallable, right, with another gateway, Stargate, whatever, but then it's so much surface area on top of it that even if you warp in a unit that can shoot over the wall, it's still a lot of damage being taken on 3 structures. But the faster speed, also more important, much more important, faster layer. I mean, maybe I was right with the Nidus Worm call in the first place.
Yep, and again, like you said, faster speed, and it is interesting because sometimes when you go for like the fast Nidus Worm plays and you want to throw down a Roach Warren or just go with a bunch of Queens, you will skip Zergling speed to get up the super fast layer. But he's going to let that finish, which does indicate he does want to just go with a lot of speedlings here as he continues flooding them out on just 20 workers. And DnS, I don't believe he's gonna get a chance to actually move out with that Adept, especially if he's scouting around the corners to actually see that there's no third. That Adept might be on the wrong side of the map. No, he's gonna leave it here.
Yeah, well, he's certainly expecting an attack. I didn't quite see if he caught how much gas is also being taken post speed. So I don't know if he's expecting the Nidus. Well, I assume it's gonna be Nidus. There it is. But he is expecting a potential attack on the front. Shield battery is wrapping up here, but this oh my God, there's so much space for a Nidus from if he wants to do it that way. He is moving an Overlord over there.
Yeah, I wonder if just the early spawning pools kind of set him off and saying, like, this is not just you trying to go after my pylon or something with 6 lings and I scouted you. You were planning something bigger. So with 10 more lings on the way, the Nidus Worm about to finish up. Finally, Hallucinate Phoenix pops on out, sees a few of the lings on the map, is also going to try and snipe off this Overlord. There is another Overlord making its way toward the main base. And Automaton, a very big map. That pylon doesn't have vision of the Nidus Worm.
No, and he hasn't scouted it quite yet. There it is, finally. He sees it. The pylon doesn't see it, but he knows it's got to be somewhere.
Mortal's going to be the first one here. This is
going to get surrounded. Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. The Probe's going to be pulled off the line. He is going to be able to save this Immortal for a little bit, but it still gets surrounded. It's going to get picked off. Force Field tries to cut down the surface area, but it's not enough. The sentries also go down, and GG. Elazer advances on to the round robin.
Yeah. I feel like he was expecting some type of Roach play.
Yeah.
I mean, Immortals are usually good enough to just be like, yeah, Immortals, go for it. But against Lings, they always are, well, they're very easily surrounded, as we saw there, and they have to kill so many things. It just gets hard for them to really be a one-man team.
The other side of it that you can also look at is the big buff for the Nidus Worm was that it has a lot of armor. Immortals don't really care if you have a lot of armor, though, because for the way that armor works in StarCraft is that if you, of course, have a lot of armor, you reduce each attack, but the Immortal doesn't do damage really quickly with like small little bursts. It's one big thing. The armor really doesn't reduce that much damage. So if you find the Nidus Worm, I think that Immortal, if he was in position and saw it immediately, I actually think that he maybe could have killed it in time.
Yes. Yeah.
And then suddenly he has so much more time. He has another warp in round. Everything looks a lot better.
100%.
Yeah. I'm with you, though. It would have been a lot better also if there was a Roach Warren or something there for Elazer. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been like, 16 lings. I was an odd number with lings, even though they come on pairs. It would have been 16 lings, maybe pressuring your front base, so you got that covered, and then you're thinking more about maybe like a dedicated Roach attack behind it, and that would only be a certain number of Roaches. You're spot on. The Immortal would have taken on a Nidus Worm, especially if it was one of those aggressively placed Nidus Worms, the natural, which maybe that's what he was considering.
Yeah.
And then he was just a little bit late to scouting it in the main base.
Oh, Automaton, a great map for that in that respect, just because the main and your natural are so big. It's so much area to cover.
Yeah.
Well done by Elazer. He gets a good read on his opponent and is able to take him out in 2-0 fashion. So Elazer moving on to that next round of round 8. But now, DnS got to do that rematch versus Showtime. Was it a fluke or was it domination? We'll find out in that decider match here in Europe.